All right, I think it's time to talk about Bitcoin again. It's been a little bit, and for the first part of this video, I am going to ramble a little bit. I want to go over some of the reasons that I took a step away from trading for a little bit, especially during this section right here. I want to go over some of the obstacles that I faced personally, and yeah, just kind of talk about some of the struggles that I faced, despite the bullishness, which, it sounds like kind of an odd thing, but I bet a lot of people can relate. And I think this is important because one of the, main purposes of this channel, aside from just being, a technical analysis channel, me going over some of the technical analysis that I've learned over the past few years of me doing this, the purpose of this channel is to document my journey as a trader, and that includes the obstacles that I face. And yeah, so I think this kind of stuff is important. And I get that some of you are probably just here for the analysis, so I will leave timestamps if you want to skip this, rambling section in the beginning. But right now, I want to share some stories and kind of reflect on my experience trading over the past few weeks or, past 2 months here. And I want to explain why I've kind of taken a step away from trading. And, really, I just started focusing again on my education. And, really, since, probably all time highs, I've, not been trading all that much. I have taken a few trades, but for the most part, I've just been doing coursework. I've been looking at price action, but not for the purpose of trading, just for the purpose of looking for, examples of the stuff I'm learning and just, kind of doing hypothetical trading. And I think there are a few reasons why, my trading and overall my decision making when it comes to, buying shit coins, for example, was not great in this area. And, I think that's important stuff to reflect on. And I think the first thing I want to talk about is kind of the FOMO I felt in this area, the fear of missing out, or the IWPOBIWMO, or I was pissed off because I was missing out. Because truthfully, I was, a bit unprepared for this. And, I'd like to think that the styles I trade with, the type of trader that I am, and that I'm still attempting to be, is a trader that does not really rely on the cycles. I don't want to, be reliant on these cycles. I want to be able to trade in any market conditions, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't look for ways to take advantage of the cycles because, truthfully, they are a great opportunity. It's not exactly a once in a lifetime opportunity, but it's a once in every 4 year opportunity. And, it's, I mean, how many of these cycles are we going to have where, Bitcoin has crazy gains and then altcoins follow? And, there may only be a few more. So I want to, look at this in the long term, and I don't want to be relying on the cycles. I want to be able to trade whether Bitcoin's at 70K or, 10K, whether I'm even trading Bitcoin. I don't want that to matter too much. And, specifically during this time when Bitcoin was, going from 50K back in, late February to when it hit all-time highs, there were a few things I struggled with. Number one, trading seemed to get more difficult because, there just weren't as many what I would call high confidence trades. A lot of the trade setups, a lot of the opportunities to take trades in this area, in my opinion, were more risky trades. They happened a lot quicker. If you didn't enter on the first kind of slight hint that the trade idea might work, you probably weren't getting in. And that's not the trading style that I trade most often. I typically like to look for high confidence trades where, if the trend's going to continue, there should be many opportunities to enter. And, those confirmations should be very clear cut. Whereas, in this area, it wasn't really the case. And also, during this time, there were some other things that were kind of affecting my psychology when it comes to trading. During this time, we started seeing the shitcoin gains. We started seeing people gambling on shitcoins and bragging about their wins. And you don't know really whether these people just happen to be really good at picking shitcoins to buy, or if they're just relentless gamblers and they're willing to take 100 losses before that one win. You don't really know. You just see a bunch of people bragging about the gains. And another point I wanted to make that I forgot about is, it's not just people gambling on these altcoins and, just, either getting lucky or, maybe they're just really skilled at it. I don't know. But it's also just, people that I follow having great success with trading at a time when I really wasn't. I saw people just holding longs and making tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars. Shout out CryptoFace. And even though I know that, the reason they're able to have this success is because they've gone through what I'm going through. They've gone through the learning process. They've taken the time to really develop their strategies. And I know that I'm on that path as well. I'm doing the right things, even if, maybe I'm taking longer than some other people. I know some people that became great traders after just like a year and a half, 2 years of trading, when I'm not necessarily there yet. I'm definitely getting there, but maybe I'm a late bloomer in a sense. So yeah, even though I know that, even though I can think about it logically and know that, hey, I'm doing the work, I should get there eventually, it still kind of just takes a toll on me. So during this time, number one, my trading kind of suffered. I started taking some losses because I, kind of got into that mindset where, okay, there's not going to be that many great setups. I have to take whatever's given to me. And, because of that, I really wasn't that profitable in this area. I had some wins, I had some losses, but, essentially this whole area was a break even. And, to me, that's kind of a waste of time. But, in hindsight, if I'm able to reflect on it and learn from it, it's not exactly a waste of time, but, you can't help but feel that way. But also, as a result of this, kind of change in my mindset, I made some bad decisions when it comes to buying shitcoins. I broke some of my rules, and I have some rules that I try to follow very strictly when it comes to buying shitcoins. There's a lot of them, you know, uh, make a plan, have a way to de-risk the trade, have a way to take out your original capital, have, clear targets set, have a clear reason for entering, classic things like that. And there are a few very important rules that I broke, especially as Bitcoin was approaching all-time highs. And one of those rules is no dexes, no dex shitcoins. Dexes are where the low caps are. It's where the, I don't know, 100,000 market cap shitcoins are. That's where, there's potential for either 1000x gains or, there's potential for it to go to zero in a day after you buy it. And in my experience, 9 out of the 10 shitcoins that I buy on dexes have gone to zero, essentially. And the one that doesn't does not make up for the 9 that did. At least that's my experience with them. And another rule that I have is when buying shitcoins, I'm risking 100%. Because I know that any shitcoin can go to zero at any time for any reason, especially the DEX ones. Even though there's a lot lower chance of, what you could call quote unquote blue chip cryptos going to zero, it could happen. There could be black swans at any point. The, founder of ADA, Charles Hoskinson, could turn out to be a scammer. I think that's very unlikely, but you have to consider the possibility. And because of that, whenever I buy shitcoins, I am preparing for the worst case scenario, even if I think it's unlikely, and even if I think, I will have an opportunity to exit at a loss, but not a total loss, worst case scenario. Even if I have a plan and a hypothetical stop loss where if we lose this certain level and things start looking really bearish, I'll sell, I'll take my loss, but I will also take, part of what I put in, maybe 50%, and, not take a total loss on it. And recently, I broke both of these rules in one day. I bought a shitcoin on a DEX because I was kind of feeling that FOMO, and I also put in a little bit more than I was comfortable losing. That mostly, to be honest, was a result of my psychology. I was kind of getting back into a gambling mindset, which is something that I worked very hard to get away from. It's something that was very prevalent in the first year of my trading, and I know how that turns out. It does not turn out good. And of course, what happened? Well, I lost literally 100% of what I put into that shitcoin on a DEX within days of me buying it. You could say, hey, maybe you're just trash at buying shitcoins, and maybe you're right, because that's not what I focus on. But I think the real mistake that I made here, even if I was going to buy a DEX coin, even if I was going to, expose myself to that risk, I should have listened to this rule 100%. and I should have risked a lot less than I did. Now, this wasn't any kind of detrimental loss. I've taken many losses this size before. It's not going to put me back that far, but it did have an impact on my psychology, especially, from this point. After I did this, it just seemed to get worse. And once I realized that, I decided it was time to take a step away, at least in terms of, actually trading and actually exposing myself to risk. I wanted to take a little break, even though I was still watching price action, even though I was still learning. I decided that, yeah, let's just take a breather here. And so now the question is, what do I do now? How do I move on from this? How do I fix this issue that I'm facing? And how can I get myself back on track? And one of the answers for me was taking a breather. Another answer was, just continue on with my plan. I'd like to think that I'm in these markets with a plan. I have a plan as to how I would like to find success, and my plan involves trading. My plan involves trading whatever context is presented, looking for opportunities within local context, or maybe higher term context, or maybe macro context. Looking for opportunities to trade, looking for opportunities to buy low and sell high, long low and short high, and just overall being a consistent trader, no matter the conditions, no matter the obstacles I face. That is my plan, and ultimately the goal is consistency. And so I think I made a good decision. Just taking a break from actually trading, actually exposing myself to risk, and just focusing on learning and improving, which, is something that I was doing, but I guess I kind of got clouded with, the emotions that I was feeling. So to wrap things up, those were the obstacles that I faced, and the way that I am overcoming them is just getting back to my plan. My plan of being a consistent trader, becoming a more consistent trader through, genuine effort, through hard work, through practice, and through applying the things that I learn in my trading. So, with that out of the way, let's do some analysis on Bitcoin. So, first, let's establish a context here. What has happened? What is Bitcoin doing? And let's start on a high time frame here. So Bitcoin recently closed a monthly candle above its all-time high. And, that is a pretty good sign. I was watching this monthly close, and there were some points where it was looking like it may close as an SFP. Price, retraced all the way back down to like somewhere around here. And if it closed as an SFP, that would have been, in my opinion, a bit more of a bearish sign. Now, I don't think just because we closed a monthly candle above this wick that, it's just going to be straight up from here. I think things are still very undecided. While I do think we are, in the middle at this point of a Bitcoin cycle, I don't think things are going to be straight up. I think there can be retracements. I think, a retracement from here is possible, but it is definitely a better look that we, actually closed a monthly candle above this wick rather than closing as an SFP. I think, an SFP close would have been a bit more bearish, and that would have increased my personal, probabilities, what I think the probabilities of a retracement are. And, granted, it's not a very strong close right now. I think, if we got a retracement right now, that wouldn't surprise me all that much. And, granted, this was not like any kind of crazy close above this high. Obviously, if we closed a candle up at 82K, then I don't think there would be much reason to come back within this range. But, so far with this slight close above the high, I still think, potentially we may see a retracement before we try to continue higher. Now going down to a lower time frame, what has happened since we hit the all-time high? What happened since we took out the all-time high? Well, we put in a new all-time high right here at, I put a horizontal line, 73,881. And from there, we got a retracement. We came down, put in this low right around 60,800. Then we got a little retracement to the upside. Now, it appears like Bitcoin is ranging. We are kind of just rotating up and down within this section of price action. And the way that I'm viewing this right now is, well, we're ranging until we're no longer ranging. Right now, looking at this as ranging price action until we either break down or break up significantly out of this range. And until that happens, I am looking to trade the range for what it is. I'm looking to buy low within this range. I'm looking to buy high within this range on a higher term context. And of course, I'm also going down to lower time frame contexts and looking to do the exact same thing, looking to sell high and buy low. And I did trade this range a little bit. I took some short trades within this range. I was profitable on them. And, this is kind of more what I like. I like ranging price action because it gives me clear context, and also price action typically, spends more time within these ranges and gives better opportunities within these ranges. So, rather than trying to catch all these wick lows and, just trying to get in to a long at any cost, I, have a much better context to trade. So I personally enjoy when Bitcoin is ranging like this. Now let's do some market cipher analysis here. So starting off on the weekly, I don't remember where I left off with market cipher analysis on the weekly, but I think it was maybe right before this red dot printed. So, we do have a red dot on this weekly momentum wave. Momentum is still well above the 60 line. If you watch Flop and Groper, this is the runaway train level. When momentum gets above this point, it's like a runaway train. It's momentum that, is very hard to stop. And it typically takes a while to stop. Even if things start to slow down a little bit, you can't just pull the brakes on it and it's not going to stop immediately. It tends to keep going, especially, the more momentum that it has built up. And right now, momentum is very high up there. I mean, it's sitting at the, 80 level right now. And weekly money flow is still looking very strong. I had a little turn to the downside here, but we've seen many little turns to the downside in this weekly money flow. It could very well just be for a higher low before a higher high. And overall, there is no sign of weakness for me on this weekly time frame. We are seeing a very steady, up move when it comes to momentum. Momentum is putting in higher highs and higher lows. Same with money flow. It is putting in higher lows and now higher highs in the green. So things look very bullish on the weekly time frame. Does that mean that, all of a sudden I'm thinking, oh, we're not going to get a retracement, we're just going to continue pumping past all-time highs? No. I think we very well could see this weekly momentum come down a bit, maybe put in another higher low relative to this low back here. Maybe money flow needs to cool off a little bit before the next push to the upside. I definitely think retraces are still very possible, especially since we now have this red dot and since momentum is kind of on its way to the downside. I think this has more room to come down, and truthfully, I would not be surprised if it does. Now, on the daily time frame, we are seeing what I would call some signs of weakness for this local move to the upside. We saw, some divergences on this high, even stemming from back here. In terms of momentum, we can see that, here is the first point I drew from, here is the second point that I drew from, and we do have a momentum div here. Momentum put in lower highs, as well as money flow. Money flow was at its peak over here. Right now it's still lower. Even though, at the moment daily money flow is putting in local higher highs, it is still diverging from this point back here. So I would call this a, slight sign of weakness for sure. It's not the most clear. There were some more bearish looking divergences kind of with local context, and I mentioned those previously. That was back in this area, and that was one of the reasons why I thought we may get a retracement while we were ranging in this range. If you watched my Flop and Groper interview, that was kind of my general feeling back in this area. To my credit though, number one, I was not convinced with this break to the downside. Once we started pulling back up, I was thinking, okay, we're still ranging in this area. And if you watched my videos back then, I was very bullish once we broke above this value area high. I took a lot of longs in this area. So, despite the bear divs here and, the general signs of weakness kind of throwing me off, I still played this very well. And since then, since we've come up to all-time highs, we see a bit of a continuation with that weakness. Momentum was unable to put in higher highs compared to this wave back here. Money flow, so far has been unable to put in a higher high. It is, locally working its way up. And we are also seeing, a bit of a direction to the upside with momentum, with it putting in some higher lows locally, potentially looking to put in another higher low here as money flow is increasing locally. And we even put in a slight higher high here. Let's see if momentum diverged from when it peaked here, and it did. So, price continued to put in higher highs as the momentum wave topped out and started decreasing a little bit. So I consider that a type of divergence. But it is not a strong divergence because money flow was not diverging. The stronger divergences, in my experience, are when you see momentum and money flow diverging at the same time. So overall, there are some signs of weakness on the daily. However, it looks like there may be some bullish hope with this local direction. So I'd say things are pretty unclear, which is not surprising considering we're at a very important decision point, and right now Bitcoin is ranging, meaning I think it's equally possible that we go either way. So now let's talk about some of the more midterm time frames, the 4-hour to the 1-hour, and let's do some analysis on this range here. So the first thing I want to point out is, we are kind of seeing what I call a triangle, where on the top, money flow is coming down, putting in lower highs. We even got like a pretty significant lower high here. It's a much more aggressive trend than this series of lower highs. So we have direction to the downside with money flow, direction to the downside with momentum, but we're also seeing a bit of direction to the upside more locally, kind of with momentum waves as well. We, I guess, kind of broke this trend line right here, and, money flow even put in a lower low relative to these waves back here. So maybe you can say the bearish strength is slightly outweighing the bullish strength here, but, regardless, just looking at money flow locally, let me clear this up a bit. We got this kind of triangle thing going on where, money flow appears to be pinching. And this is a kind of common thing that I see in ranges a lot. You'll see a lot of indecision. The moves to the downside tend to put in higher lows, so people, start getting excited, like, oh, maybe momentum's going to start building to the upside. But, that is if you're ignoring the top end, where money flow is also putting in lower highs. And we can click through some time frames and kind of see how things are looking on the lower term time frames. On the 3-hour, it's a very similar thing. We got that triangle thing going on right here. With momentum, the direction to the downside is much more clear than the direction to the upside. Granted, you can say like low, higher low, potentially another higher low here. But, overall, I want to focus on the money flow with this. So let's click through some of the other time frames. Very similar thing here. And this is pretty par for the course with range-based price action, especially at a very important decision point like we're at right now. And, essentially the way I like to look at this is, this is good for ranges. When money flow comes up, there's a pretty good chance that we may come back down at some point. When money flow gets moved to the downside and then starts building back up, we can maybe expect a rotation. So, that's pretty much what price has been doing, and maybe will continue doing. It's just rotating from side to side. So now let's do a bit of price action analysis. First thing I want to analyze is volume. Let's take a look at volume. And, we, I guess, found some support on the point of control here. Now, locally, price is getting a little move away. I'm not really surprised at this move to the upside because of how quickly we came down here. There's essentially a massive fair value gap that right now price is trying to fill. And, potentially we get a move up, fill that fair value gap, and run into the value area high. If we're able to get above that, then potentially we make a run for all-time highs. But I think, if we end up rejecting from here, start falling back to the point of control, then, it's just classic range rotation. We reject from one volume area, we tend to get a move to the next. If we lose that, then we'll probably get a move to the next, which is the value area low. And I want to take Bybit's volume profile as well. Let's see if it's different. I like to, check these on multiple exchanges. Normally I'm trading Bybit, but, I wanted to, do my analysis on Binance just so I didn't have to hide all my analysis, but, I just did that anyway. Put it into a folder here. There's a lot of what I call secret stuff here, stuff that I can't leak because, it's paid content, It's White Phoenix's stuff, and I'm not going to be the guy to leak his course material. But Bybit's fixed range pull is a bit different. We actually found support on the value area low here. And rather than the value area high being up in this area, it's the point of control. But despite that, I am looking at this in a very similar way. If we fill this fair value gap and reject from the point of control, then maybe there's a good chance we come back down to the value area low. If we lose that, then maybe we come down to the actual low of the range. If we get above the point of control, then I'd watch the value area high next, and if we get above that, then maybe we come up to all-time highs. So now let's talk about another type of concept. Let's talk about liquidity. Where is the liquidity, and where may market makers look to run stop losses? So actually pulling back up the volume profile because I can kind of use this. So really, I think there's liquidity in both sides of the ranges. There are lower highs up here that if you shorted anywhere in this area and put your stop loss above any of these lower highs, then your stop loss was safe. And if you're still in those positions, then there's liquidity up in this area that market makers could take advantage of. And the same is true to the downside. We have a bunch of higher lows. Even this wick low was not taken out. We have another higher low here, another higher low here, and more locally, we've got some higher lows building up even more liquidity to the downside. So, in conjunction with the fixed range pull and the important volume areas, I would look at the liquidity points. If we get above the value area high, then we're probably taking out all these guys. If we lose the point of control, then we're most likely taking out all or at least some of these guys. And to the upside, the liquidity can even be extended to over here. There's a wick high that didn't get taken out, and then there's probably stop losses above all-time high as well. And I think that pretty much does it for the main points I want to cover. Bitcoin is ranging right now, and personally, I'm looking to not only trade the larger range, but I'm looking to trade the smaller ranges that form within this range. And I'm just getting back to what I know and love when it comes to trading, which is building a local context and finding high probability trade setups within those contexts. All right, thank you everybody for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, leave a comment. All of that helps to support my channel. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all in the next video.